House Select Committee on the CCP member, Iowa Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. Great to see you, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for being here. Is it time, do you think, for the United States to, I call it ABC, anybody but China, to bring together all of our trading partners and ice China out and treat China as the adversary that it is, and not just an economic rival?
Yeah, we need to be having these conversations. I think that's exactly what President Trump is doing, Secretary Bessent's doing. They are trying to figure out where else we need to be investing our money, where else do we need to be making these deals. We saw our Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, do an amazing job in securing a deal with the UK that's really, really good for Iowa farmers. I think we absolutely should be figuring out how we can, as a world, not be so reliant upon China. I do think we need them as a market, but I think, strategically, this is the bigger conversation. They have been taking advantage of American workers. They've been taking advantage of American farmers for decades, and we can't let that continue. So I appreciate President Trump having some tough talk with President Xi. There's a new sheriff in town, and clearly he's going to make an impression through those phone calls and those negotiations. But we need to get a deal done, and nobody better at that than the president.
I'd love to get into the details of how Congress has a role to play in this, and you do when it comes to the tariffs, which is important. But the president is paying attention to other nations, how China's acting with them as well. You're on the committee for the CCP. China's decoupling from the world economy is starting to unravel, whether it's the Belt and Road Initiative, the debt trap, or otherwise. So looking at all of this, what are the next steps that Congress will take to support the president in this tariff strategy?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, it's enforcement. We need to make sure the DOJ has the resources necessary to be able to go after the bad guys, right? We put into place good trade laws and good tariffs, good duties to make sure they're held accountable and that there is a fair deal. Enforcing those is the other part of the equation. So making sure that we can go after the bad actors. China has been putting American businesses out of business by transnational shipment, for example. So you look at the auto parts industry. They've been shipping through other countries to get around our laws.
The transshipping issue, yeah.
For decades, they've been doing this. And so when you think about the billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that our businesses are suffering in economic damages, we need to be able to enforce those laws. So the legislation that is very bipartisan coming out of our committee is designed to do exactly that, to make sure that DOJ can go after these bad actors like the CCP.
And one thing David is alluding to is the International Trade Court ruling against the Trump administration on the blanket tariffs across the board, even the fentanyl tariffs. Now, there's a stay in place. It lasts until, I believe, next Monday. Could go to the Supreme Court. But that is using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. But what will fall on Congress, and I'm curious if these conversations are already starting to happen, is giving the president the power from Congress to lay on broad tariffs like he has done using that late 70s law, which is in question now legally.
And I think many of us in Congress support what the president is trying to do here right now. And that's the thing I've heard from Iowans is they understand. I was at a number of events. I did a town hall last week, a couple of them, and people understand we need to be able to play tough here, and we need to have someone who's leading in that conversation. And so I think the president, he needs the grace and the time to be able to get this done, and that's certainly what I'm going to allow him to do as we have further conversations about Congress's role.
Congressman, speaking of Iowa and town halls, let's move to this. At a town hall this weekend, not all the Iowans were on board with the big, beautiful bill.
I was also proud to vote for President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill last week. This is a generational investment. This is a general investment.
But maybe it's because messages like this are coming out of the mouths of congressional leaders on the other side of the aisle.
Actually, if it ever were to be implemented into law, hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, and people will literally die.
Congresswoman, react to both, because the crowd was literally cheering in favor of a tax increase. So that's upside down and butt backwards, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the minority leader is out there fear-mongering. A lot of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are out there, frankly, lying about what's in these bills. And I think that's atrocious because we want to make sure these programs are there for people who actually need them. Medicaid is very important to a lot of Iowans and a lot of Americans. And so I actually really appreciated the opportunity to get out there and answer Iowans' questions last week and dispel a lot of the myths about these bills. Tell people, hey, this is what's really in it. And to your point, Dagan, about them booing tax cuts, I mean, this is their money. This is Americans' money. It doesn't belong to the government. So I couldn't believe that they were booing no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and continuing that middle-class tax relief that keeps Iowans from seeing a 25% hike in their federal taxes. So I think the majority of Americans are with us. They understand what we're trying to do here, which is make sure we're supercharging the economy, protecting small businesses, investing in our border, investing in energy. All of these things are things the president ran on and that I ran on. And so that's exactly what we're doing. So I was kind of shocked that they booed like that. But I think at the end of the day, most Iowans are with us. And sometimes the silent majority is who we're really focused on.
Right. And making able-bodied men work.
Getting illegal immigrants off
who get
these
the
programs.
Obamacare Medicaid expansion. That's what the bill does. So,
Right.
Congresswoman, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Yep,
Thank
absolutely.
you, Congresswoman.
Anti-Semitism